I think we have considerable people to start. Let's not
Mm.
wait further. Hello and welcome everyone to another Be Waste Wise webinar this month. And I'm Akanksha Singh. As most of you all know, I'm the community builder at Be Waste Wise. We are an organization. We are organizing waste dialogues on monthly basis, addressing the need for knowledge dissemination on waste management since 2013. And we are been bridging this waste solutions expertise gap worldwide over a decade now. If you see the value in making such dialogues, diverse sustainability dialogues, free of charge to anyone and everyone, then request you all to please support us and donate. We will be sharing the link of our donation page on the chat as well. Moving on to today's webinar, we will engage in a very interesting discussion today on Library of Things. The concept of Library of Things, as I would like to, take a few minutes for you all to understand that it allows communities to borrow in, infrequently used items, and instead of buying them, reducing resource consumption and waste. To moderate this session, we have with us Emma. Emma, who works directly with businesses on sustainability for last 25 years and founded Lighthouse Sustainability in 2020 to deliver impactful advice, coaching, and training. Emma will discuss with experts on the panel today successful case studies, how businesses and municipalities can adopt these models, and practical steps for communities to implement shared resources and waste reduction strategies. On the panel today, we have Dr. Carol Skyring, who's the co-founder and president of the Sydney Library of Things. And we have Rodolfo, who founded Spain's first Library of Things in 2017. Before I hand over to Emma, I would like you all to please, make note that this webinar is being recorded and will be uploaded on our website and YouTube channel within 2 weeks of time. Please use the Q&A section for your queries and all your comments and your networking, areas in the chat. Let's keep these two channels separate so that we don't miss out on the questions in the chat itself. We'll be sharing our panelists' LinkedIn profiles in this function for whoever wants to connect to them personally. Use this platform for networking as well. If there are some reports, some links, some case studies related to Library of Things in your region you want to share, let's do that and make this discussion even more constructive. So back to you, Emma.
Oh, thank you. Fantastic. So we're already up to 50 people. I'm sure a couple more will join as well. We had over 120 people registered for this webinar today. So welcome everyone. As I think I said when we were joining, I'm really, really pleased to see such a global audience. So big wave to you all. Hi Yasar from Istanbul. Hi Janet from Five. Do network in the chat. I know this is an area that this is a reason why people come to these webinars as well, to meet people from around the world who are interested in the same topic. And the topic today is something that's quite close to my heart and very close to the heart of my panelists, is Library of Things. It's close to my heart because I've got a background in circularity, and also because I'm about to embark on trying to set up a Library of Things in my own village. So I am a newbie, completely new to this. So I've invited Carol and Rodolfo to join me because they are experts in this, okay? So, welcome everybody. I think we'll just start with the first poll, Akanksha, just to get everybody settled in, and then I'll go over to introducing everybody. So we're talking about Library of Things today in its broadest sense. So any form of sharing network, sharing hub, any system where people can share things. What are the key success factors? Tell us what you've learned, maybe where the barriers have been. And while we're doing this, start thinking your questions as well. So hopefully you can see that on the screen. Oh, convenience coming out high. So yeah, do you have to drive to get there? Can you park? Availability. What I haven't put on here is cost as well. I didn't put that on. Maybe we should have. If anyone has any other points, they can pop them in the chat. Give everyone a bit more time. Hi, Julia in Spain. Hi, Eddie from Singapore. This is great. Demand. Roger says demand. Okay, let's deal with that. And no one has said safety, and I'm really interested because I thought that would be a question. That certainly comes up from some of the businesses that I speak to when I say to them, why don't you get involved in this library of things with your products, your branded products? They go, what about safety? So I'm so interested in that you guys are not. So Francesca says safety's a given. Let's talk about that in a minute. Okay, so you can see the results there. Convenience coming out the highest. Availability. Oh, okay. So that kind of links, I guess, if you go to borrow something and it's not available, that's not very convenient. And then advertising and that age-old challenge for all of us volunteers. Well, without further ado, then I'm going to come to my brilliant panelists. And first of all, I'm going to say thank you so much to Dr. Carol Scarring for joining us from Australia, because it is late in the evening there. So, Carol, thank you very much. And Rodolfo is joining us from Spain. So I'm going to introduce you both through my first question, if that's okay. So, Carol, can you give us a quick sort of background to what you do, and what does Library of Things mean to you?
It's interesting because what Library of Things meant to us when we started has changed a little bit.
Right.
I'm one of three co-founders,
Right.
and we started it on the basis of sustainability, trying to keep things out of landfill, trying to stop people buying things. And we worked with sustainability officers in local councils to get going.
Mm-hmm.
Over time, we have found, and I think it's just symptomatic of where we all are now financially, cost of living has become important because people are seeing it as a way to save money. And we have also found that the people we need to work with are the waste officers, not just the sustainability. And in fact, the waste officers are often more engaged with us than the sustainability officers
That's a
are.
shift.
Yeah, so for us, it's very much about the share economy, and I see the share economy as a little subset of the circular economy. It contributes to the circular economy.
Love it. Great. And Carol, you're based in Sydney, is that right? Is it a
Yes.
city based? Oh, yeah, love it. Brilliant. Great. So is it an urban area that you service in the city?
Yes, very much. And I don't want to skite, but we've just opened our fourth branch. And our Sydney's a very large city, and so these are spread quite a long way around, and we would like to see one in every local government authority.
Brilliant. Thank you, Carol. Fantastic. So, Rodolfo, over to you. Tell us what's happening in Spain, and what does Library of Things mean to you?
Well, Library of Things means a lot to me, actually, because if I
Awesome.
come back in the days in 2011, I did a master here in Spain of lean supply chain management, and they talked a lot in a year about efficiency and in production side. And in my mind, I was always like going crazy about why not think about efficiency in the consumption side of the story, you know? And that was the first time I thought about a business related to sharing the usage of products. You know, I was gonna call Que Cambio, and I did a lot of like ideas about how it was gonna be. I never pushed that forward. But then in 2013, I started to come back with an idea about a club of products. And then I saw something about an initiative in Canada, I guess, talking about a library of things. And then 2015, I learned about a little bit circular economy, where I came what I am today, a professional about circular economy, actually. And then 2015, I started to learn about circular economy and connect the dots with, like sharing usage, library of things, circular economy. And then 2016, 17, I started the first, let's call it library of things here in Spain, called Lo Club. It was like a huge process of like 4 years and a half, basically. I tried to change the model a little bit after that to apply like tiny library things for local markets, and it was hard to do. And then we can talk about this later, what was hard to do. So it's been 14 years actually of
Wow.
my life rethinking about how we can share the usage of products to do a little bit more, not efficiently, because I learned with circular economy and with a paper actually that I'm going to share with you guys about the term sufficiency. So a lot about consumption is more related about sufficiency, and then in production we talk a lot about efficiency. So that's a mindset that we need to change as well. Whenever we talk about consume products in a shared way, it's more about sufficiency. And then there's where I am today, and then in a month I'm gonna try to create a different model, not a library of things, but a different model to help people to share the usage of products, because I really believe that the main key of everything is there, you know.
Yeah,
So yeah.
love it. Brilliant. And I love it too. And I think during lockdown, we all learned that, we can coexist with our neighbours a little bit more than we do just as Amazon consumers or whatever, So, so we've always been big at sort of sharing stuff with neighbours and whatever, family. But I think this is, well, I guess my next question really is, are these things gaining in popularity? Do you feel like we're on a trend? Carol, you've just opened your 4th branch. So do you feel like things have changed? Both of you have been at this for quite a long time.
Yes,
Is it gaining
absolutely.
popularity?
Yeah, we started planning before COVID, and we
Right.
actually opened for one day in the middle of 2 lockdowns.
Oh, great.
And then we had to close down again.
Oh, bless
So
you.
so we've been operating now 3.5 years with our first branch. And we did that for a couple of years until we knew how things were going. And then we brought our second branch on in April last year, our third one in November, and we're just opening our 4th one now. And when we first opened, nobody knew what a library of things was. We had a big job educating people about what it was and awareness. They might have been vaguely aware of tool libraries, but oh, I can get a bread maker and camping equipment. And so there was a big education process. What happened last year was 3 of the television stations came to us.
Wow.
Independently. They came to us and wanted to do pieces on the Library of Things. So that is, I think, one indication. We're also a member of the Australian Library of Things, and we see that gradually growing. But I think the biggest imprimatur for Libraries of Things is that our Environmental Protection Authority here contacted us about a month ago, and they are doing a strategy for the New South Wales government on recycle, repair, and something else anyway. And they want to use the Library of Things as a case study.
The model.
So I think that's really mainstreamed us.
Yeah, great. And Carol, just in terms of Australia, is Sydney a kind of leader in this, or have the other main cities got libraries of things as well?
No, there are in other main cities. We were close to one of the first opening. We've had tool libraries here for quite a while, and we went to 2 of those established ones in getting to start, because all we've really done, library tools have been around since about 1945, and all we've done is just expanded that out.
Nice.
To things instead of just tools. Yeah, so there's now a growing body of them. Look, it's much, much easier for us in Sydney or in any large urban area. You've got a population for borrowing, and you've got a population to draw volunteers from. So it is easier, because sometimes we talk to and work with regional areas, and it is much harder.
And volunteers came up in the poll, didn't it? And I'm just interested in the sort of numbers. I don't know if anybody can tell us internationally how many there are, but if you want to put in the chat, the numbers that are in your country. Francesca's just put in 25 in Wales. Now, Wales is not a big country, right? But 25 in Wales, and several in development. So some of those will be in quite small towns.
Yes, yeah. I just actually had a check, and there are around 2,000 formally recognised libraries of things in the world, but there would be many, many others operating on
at
an
least double
informal
that,
basis.
I thought. Yeah. Yeah, Rodolfo, what about Spain? What's the trend been like? Were you a fire starter, or was this quite a common thing already?
Yeah, I mean, Spain. Well, it was hard for me, and it's still like going slowly, I guess, but it's moving forward, definitely. I believe definitely worldwide it's getting bigger. The movement, I called it as a movement, because there's different way to apply this and different like tools that people can use, like softwares or models that can be used to apply this mentality of library of things, let's say. And I can just like see from one side, like I guess that then Carol's going to talk about a software specifically, that you can see how bigger they got because of initiatives that are using this software, so you can compare the evolution from there as well. And then you can see like other startups that started somehow as a library of things, but then they kind of like moved to a little bit different direction, but it's still with the same idea. One is like one from UK called Library of Things itself, that they started with one local and now they have like 20 locals or more, offering like a smart locker for the community, so they can use in a shared way this product. And the other is Tulu from Israel, that apply somehow the same idea but more for huge residential buildings, so they have this smart locker in the residential building. So the main idea of library of things apply in different ways also is a indicator of the movement that it's growing. So definitely it's an environment that it's getting much bigger.
So those, I've got a couple of questions from that. So there are a couple of brands, if you like. So there's Library of Things is a brand that you buy into, right? You pay to be part of that. And then Rodolfo, you just mentioned another one, Tulu, was it?
Tulu, Tulu.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are others if others want to share in the chat. So that's almost like a ready-made system that you buy into. Now that leads me to question Eddie has put here in the chat, and also Flick on the Q&A. How do you fund this? How are these things generally funded? So I know there's probably lots of ways, but Carol, can you give us an idea of your sort of funding journey?
Okay, we started with nothing. Insurance is incredibly expensive here, probably the same for everyone.
Right.
I actually stumped up for the $3,000 to pay the insurance in the first year, so it was great faith.
Wow.
I got it back after about 18 months. Wow. So we are funded by grants. We put in for grants at the community level, at the state level. We don't usually go for federal level. And sometimes we get sustainability grants. Now, these are small grants, $3,000, $5,000, those sorts of things. Membership, you get membership coming in.
Okay.
Maybe I'll explain our model and how we work. And that is that we have a membership fee, which is $85 per year, and there's other iterations of it. And for that, you can borrow 5 things every fortnight. Now, you borrow for free, so there is no other cost beyond that $85 once you have paid it. And then every now and then we have specials. Like at the moment, there's a $70 special because there's a new branch opening and things like that. So that's how we operate. And we still apply for grants even now. But we also now have a new model. We don't start anywhere unless we have council support. And an area where we will start will happen in a couple of ways. It might be that a council comes to us. It might be that a resident wants a library of things and they come to us, and then we approach council. And we also have on our website a form that you can fill in if you want a library of things in your area, asks a few questions. And if we get a certain number from a particular local government area, then we can go to that council and say, here it is. Now, what we do with councils is we have a charge, and that is $5,000, of which at least half of that goes out in buying things like test and tag machine and things like that. But at least it gives us, some income. We're all volunteers. No one is paid. We operate on the smell of an oily rag. Nearly all of our items are donated. We have bought a few of the more popular ones.
So that was another question that Eddie had. How do you fund it?
Sorry, I'm doing them all in one hit.
No, go for it. The donated items,
Yes, they are all donated. What else was I going to tell you? Insurance. What was the other part of that question? I've forgotten now.
Well, Eddie's just saying if things break, how do you pay to replace them, that sort of stuff.
Okay, so a double-edged thing here. We also run for one of the councils where we are, a Fix-It Hub, which is a repair cafe. They pay us to do that. So that's monthly. We do it once a month. So that's monthly income for us. So that's another arm of us. But each of our branches has their own maintenance team. That only has to be, 3 or 4 people. Not many things break. But what you do have to do is you have to test, or we do here, we have to test and tag all of those electrical items every 3 months.
Right.
So we train in every site, we train someone who wants to be a test and tagger. We buy a machine, and then the software keeps track of all that when it's due to be done again.
Brilliant. Thank you. Really comprehensive, Carol. I hope everyone's getting that. And obviously you'll get the recording so you can listen back. Rodolfo, are you mirroring that? How do you fund things? What's your sort of membership structure?
Yeah, I mean, actually the project that I had, like based on library things, was like a private project. My dream was like live through that, and one of the hard things that I learned is that library things in general, and I did a master on circular economy as well, so I studied a lot of different models of servitization, let's call it, or product as a service. Okay, so I divided in different groups that could be applied to that. And library things specifically, in general, it's a not financially sustainable through relation customer initiative. You normally depend on different grants, different ways of getting the money to sustain that. My project was like funded by me and my family, my wife, my parents, everybody around me, which was like the sad part that took me a couple years to to swallow that and come back with
you and
energy
Carol
and
both
started
giving over hard cash by the sounds of it.
So it's hard to deal with that situation. The average ticket, it's very low, so people need to know that the average ticket of renting products for home appliance, let's call it, it's very small. You can talk about 10 to 15 euros or pounds or something like that. It's not going to go much more than that. And to maintain at least 2-3 people working on that, different times, different days and everything, and the repairing the products, maintaining the products, cleaning the products, everything. I mean, for now, someone talked about demand. It's true. There's not enough demand to maintain that financially. So this is why also Tulu and library things by itself, from the girls from the UK that I keep saying, they kind of changed the model for a software and also for a different kind of like smart lockers, so they can try to live through that, but in a different model. Because if you go straight from library things, you're going to depend on grants, you're going to depend on funds from different ways, and because renting products like that is it's very cheap, it's hard to maintain salaries and everything that goes around that.
So it sounds like there's a few models. So Carol, come on in on your thoughts on that.
We are very financially viable, and that is because we are totally run by volunteers, and volunteers in the sustainability sector are very passionate, and the amount of time and expertise they give us is just amazing. So our costs are very, very low. So we are financially viable. We probably, it would be a little bit difficult maybe without the grants, but we don't depend on them as we did in the early, say in the first 12 months. We couldn't have operated because it took at least 6 months for people to understand what it was and start joining up. We have now 227 active members, but that just means they're active at the moment, because some people will join for 3 months, pay the quarterly fee, borrow, we know they're having a big party, they're doing some house renos, borrow 5 things, and then they won't join, they'll let that lapse, but then they might join again at some time later. But that's okay, because we get more money out of them if they join for a few quarterlies than they do for one whole year. And then we hope they'll roll over and go, hey, I'm using this a bit, so I will join for the whole year. We have 580 items. Now, let's say that's mostly across 3, because our 4th one is only just starting up. And of those, probably about 5 have been purchased. They've all, you know, and we all, everything that comes in, we have a process for donations. People just can't come and dump things there.
No, because you'd end up with a load of junk.
Exactly. So we have a donation coordinator at each branch, and they say, okay, you know, do we need another widgety wodgety, or, you know, do we have 5 of them, or will no one ever borrow it? And they make that decision and then liaise with the person, and they drop them off. We are open just one small time in the week. 3 of them are open Saturday mornings from 9 to 12. One of them's open Thursday
You're
night.
not trying to
from 6
cover
to 8.
the whole week. It's so rich. This is, Carol. There's so much learning here, and I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat as well. And I'm going to come on to your question in a minute, Joseph, about liability. But I just want to stick on this operational stuff, because I get a feeling this is really kind of rich for people. So there's membership models. There's pay-per-use model, I guess, Rodolfo, you'd call that, the hiring kind of model. There's setup, which is definitely sounds like that's sort of grants are necessary for that. And I love the point about having really good processes, I think, Carol. And
yes,
because I think sometimes the chaos is what can sink the best ideas,
Yep. From day one, you need to have some procedures and processes in place so that people know, what you're doing. We evolved. I mean, we're a bit chaotic, to start with, but we are to the stage now with 4 branches that we are about to appoint a branch coordinator at each branch. And then each of them, they have their accession coordinator and the team. They have their donations person. They have their volunteer coordinator. So that we as co-founders can't keep running things, all the time anymore. So we've had to put a bit of a structure and hierarchy in there. We're going through that phase now. We're kind of forced into it, really.
Yeah, so it's taken a few years to get to that point. And Jill in the chat here is saying, can you give me an idea of location and opening times and all this? Is there a rule book for this, Carol or Rodolfo? Do you know of a rule book? Or
no,
a manual?
We just say you need a minimum of 20 square meters, because our libraries are storerooms, right? People do not come into our libraries and browse. It's a click and collect service. They join online, they pay online, they book their things online, they turn up when the library is open and pick them up, and they bring them back 2 weeks later, or they can renew them if they want them longer and nobody else wants them. So it's really, when one of the things we do when we start with our discussions with council, we have a survey and we say to councils, okay, if you want this, you need to prove that people are going to come to it. And I noticed someone mentioned that in the chat. So we have a survey that they must send out to their big, broad audience in their area. And it asks questions like, do you want to help set it up? Do you want to be a volunteer later? Do you want to just borrow? What sorts of things would you borrow? Tick box. How far would you travel? This much, this
and
much,
if you haven't got that, then
that's right.
You're on a hide into nothing, I guess. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, brilliant, Carol. That's great.
Exactly.
Nice. So Rodolfo, how does this sit with you? I mean, your experience, have you been involved in the libraries of things where you there's the cabinets and you come along and you get your item, but you pay per item? Is that the way you've been running it?
The usage, I mean, it's the same way that library things, any kind of library things work. The only thing I was trying to do is make it profitable so I can live through that.
Yeah. So a business, right?
Yeah. I mean, and people sometimes get very, I don't know, rough about making a business profitable. I mean, like everything that it's supposed to be beautiful, it cannot be profitable, and I don't believe that this is the way. I believe that there's a lot of different ways to apply sustainability and circularity. Okay. And I had my place. I had like a 50 meters place where I rented. I paid every month for that rental, lights, water, trash, or anything that I had to pay. And then I worked there from Monday. I started from Monday to Saturday, from 10 to 2, 4 to 8. And then Sunday, I had it open for turning back products. And then after a year and a half, I saw that my life with my family was getting crazy because I had a son at the moment, my wife and everything. So I quit the Sundays and I put the Sundays for free for people. So I changed it in the system that I was not going to charge Sundays because I was not going to be able to open. So I put it Sunday for free as well. And then Saturday I reduced from 10 to 2. And it's very tough, but I had a very similar like way of dealing as any other library of things. The only thing is that I applied as like, I don't know if Carol does that, but I had like in my system, I had like a deposit. So people started to pay just online, and then paying online, I was also charging them like a fraction of the total price of the product, because they used to know, like if you rent a drill that it costs a new drill 80 euros, you pay 6 to rent it for a day, but then you pay around 15 or 20 for a deposit that if you bring back broken in a way that we can see that you drop it, it's crazy. It never happened, you know. People get too crazy about risk as well, but normally it doesn't happen anything.
People are
But we
quite
get too
careful.
crazy about like, oh, things can go wrong, and normally it doesn't go. In more than 1,000 users that I had, maybe I had problem with 2 or 3, you know. So you can kind of see
That's good to
that it's
know.
not that easy to go wrong. So the deposit worked very fine with me, and the playbook that someone asked it, I believe that the movement has a lot of things in common, because a lot of use the software that's like maybe Carol can talk more, like it's called My Turn. It's a huge software provider of like tons of like maybe the most of known library things in the world, comes from a software as well that I use that's called My Turn, and they have a lot of information, you know. And if you go around their website and find all the library things that use their software, you're going to see a lot of patterns, you know, about how things works.
And I think that's the only way we can learn quick enough, isn't it? To have, because I know my local situation, you know, there's literally 2 or 3 of us having a chat about this. We're sort of, you know, a decade behind where you guys are, but there are others in the local county that we're trying to learn off, and we're just on the border for Wales, so obviously we can learn. And Francesca's saying here that her library of things are all open at different times. It really depends on the site, so it's going to be very specific. And the one in Newport is a space where you can also have a cup of tea, which is really lovely. So the one I went to on the weekend was in Bromley in South London, and that's part of a Cleaner and Greener hub. So you can go there, and there's a sewing machine, and you can do arts and crafts. So I think this kind of combining it with other things is starting to sound really appealing. So repair is an obvious one, but also maybe wider kind of community hubs. So I'm just going to hop over to another sort of couple of questions here, which was about, I guess, types of items. So someone's asked here about baby items, reusable nappies. Do you feel sometimes restricted over the items that you can? That was one of my feelings about Library of Things, was like there was a set number of items, and I was like, well, what if we want to do different things?
We are restricted by insurance.
Oh, right.
So we can't have chainsaws. We can't have angle grinders. There's things we can't have. Sorry?
Nothing flammable, or?
No, nothing operates on petrol. And because we run a library of a toy library as well, I can speak to the toys. They're here, at least. There are very strict rules about what you can and can't have. We can't have soft toys. They've got to be hard toys. They've got to go through an industrial dishwasher before they go out again. We would never be able to have reusable nappies. We would get no insurance cover for that. And it's all tied up with insurance.
Wow, that's both depressing and enlightening, I guess.
Well, maybe it's better in other countries. I don't know.
Maybe it is country specific. I don't know.
It's a dangerous country here, so you know the insurance is pretty strict. I just want to add too, we are a not-for-profit incorporated association, right? So we are definitely, that's how we operate.
So not for profit, but incorporated. Okay, so again, I'm sure people have got questions here about governance. You know, should we be a not-for-profit? Should we run it as a limited company? Should we be a charity? You know, and there's a lot that goes with that. And I'm sure, again, Carol, in different countries, there's different governance models.
To become a charity and get charity status, it is a process, and we have not had time to do that because it's such a process, and we go, what benefit is going to give to us? Nothing really. So we haven't gone down that track. The other thing too, I didn't mention that, you know, it is essential for us to get the council on board, and they have to do 2 things. They have to provide us with a venue free of charge and with no ongoing costs. And they have to do PR and marketing for us, because they are the ones who have the thousands of people in their local area that can get out to, that we
So
don't
you've
have.
really lent on this local authority idea. Rodolfo, it doesn't sound like you did go down that route. So how was the kind of local government involved in Spain with you?
Not at all. Not
Ah,
involved. Not
That
involved.
might have been where
And
you went wrong, Rodolfo.
oh, I see.
it was a crazy path I took, and I took it. I believe it was right because I learned a lot.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
learned a
good.
lot also about best country. Best country has a lot of circularity on the radar, let's call it, but a lot of effort is on the production side, you know. So
Mm,
whenever you see what they're doing, talking about the consumption, it's nothing basically, you know. They don't want to touch this point of the structure that we have of our system, you know. Let's make it production more efficiency, but let's not touch about the rising of consumption. Let's call it this way, you know. So it's very hard to make councils and you know, to make the public sector engage with this. It's hard. It's a crazy job that Kara does as well, and also other initiatives that I
mm,
know to get those people involved. But I just want to talk about items because you asked Kara about
yeah,
items. I had 200 items in my
right.
store,
Wow,
let's
that's
call
a
it.
lot.
But 80% of the financial that I had going on that, it came from 20, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So the thing is,
Top
sometimes we
20.
offer like hundreds of products and people just want the same thing, you know, and not the same thing, but it's a door. It's a door.
Yeah,
These 20 items, it's a door for people to know that they can rent others. But sometimes you need to be aware of this, you know, that it's
yeah, yeah.
quantity helps you with marketing, but it's not gonna make the money flow, you know. It's just like some
Mm.
specific products that people like to rent.
So let's go for that then. What's your top three products, Rodolfo, do you think?
Oh, mine was no. I'm almost sure there was like and it was like home appliance because I have also sports and other things,
Yeah.
leisure. But it was like how's it called? It's like it's not. It's a cleaner. It's like with hot
The pressure washer.
not pressure washer.
Huh?
It's like
Steam cleaner?
steam cleaner. Yeah,
Oh,
steam cleaner. Okay,
right.
drill. And
Mm.
then the other one to clean couch and the floor that it's
Carpet. Yeah.
fuzzy, how do you call carpet and things
Carpet
like that.
cleaner. Yeah.
Yeah, carpet cleaning basically,
That
you
was
know.
your bit.
These are
That,
the
yeah.
yeah, the main three
Steam
things that
cleaner.
I use to rent, you know. And then a few other mores, and then you know,
Mm.
but it was like basically 5 or 6 products was like the main products,
Wow,
and
that
then
learning is so important, especially for
yeah,
Yeah.
space, right? Because you could have a massive space,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
actually the items that you are renting are unavailable because they're the ones that are really.
Yeah,
So,
this is
Carol,
why
what?
I try. I know, sorry, sorry,
No,
sorry.
go on. Go
No,
finish
this is
up.
why I tried. Whenever I saw that me by myself wasn't
Yeah.
gonna get anywhere, and I saw that with 5 items was enough to generate at least a few hundreds
Yeah.
euros a month, I
Which is
tried
a
to
lot.
convert into a marketplace for local markets. I was like, hey, you know what? Let's bring this system.
Mm. Oh, Rodolfo, lost your sound. It's all right. Carol, you come in with your top three. What is your top three?
We are to the stage now where we have enough stats that we regularly look at our top 30, top 50, and we are now at the stage of, deaccessioning things that haven't been borrowed. Our top is the high pressure water washers,
Mm.
gurneys, karshers, they call us here,
Couches.
definitely the top.
Mm.
Paper shredders, surprisingly, are
What?
popular.
I wouldn't have
Yes.
had that at the top.
I
Yeah.
know. And it's not even election time yet. And the other one is food dehydrators. So we now have 2 or 3 of those in each library, all being donated, because they're the sort of things people go, oh, I'm going to do this, and they do it once and
Do
never
it
do it
once,
again.
yeah.
So they donate it.
Wow.
So that's our
So it's
top
probably quite a
3.
regional kind of local thing as well, what people are into. When I
Mm.
was in the one in Bromley, there was a gentleman and his son picking up the pressure washer. That was what they were
Yeah.
going for. So,
Mm.
so those are quite big, quite kind of expensive items. Francesca, who's in Wales, says their top 3 items are the carpet cleaner, the pressure washer, and the gazebo.
Oh, gazebos are very popular for us too. Definitely in the top
Uh,
10.
And she said the giant garden games, are in the top 10 all the time. Camping gear is popular, but it's a pain. I wonder why it's a pain. Um, Great, that's been really, really useful. So nappies has come up a couple of times in the conversation. We do have nappy libraries in the UK, Carol, so I don't know what the issue is
Interesting.
with you. Yeah, we have lots of like sharing libraries and stuff like that, and baby slings and toys and all that sort of stuff. So I think the message here is just find out locally kind of what
Yes,
else is
what you can do. Yeah.
working. Don't
Yep.
reinvent the wheel.
Yeah. See,
Eddie,
we can't even have the baby, the
yeah.
baby sits your seat in your car. We're not allowed to have
No,
those.
yeah. So Eddie has asked a question about the insurance. I mean, just quickly, Carol, without going into details, can you tell us like what that insurance is?
Yep.
Is it contents insurance? Is it
Three
public
types of
liability?
insurance.
Right.
3 types of insurance: public liability, volunteer insurance,
Okay.
and insurance to cover the items when they're out with borrowers. And on top of that, all of our members have to sign a waiver form when they sign up. That's part of what they have to do. And then we have a safe borrowing checklist. And if they are borrowing anything that could be slightly, and that's a hard call, because you can give yourself a paper cut and die from sepsis.
Yeah, of
but
course.
you make a call on that, and we have a QR code. It goes into a Google form, and they just have to sign up and say, yes, I know how to do this. I've got the appropriate PPE equipment, etc., etc.
Fantastic. Brilliant. So 3 types of insurance. That's really worth people knowing about, isn't it? I'm going to ask this question from Joseph now, coming around to this concerns about liability. And this is something that I've had pushback, like I say, from a couple of brands who I've said, look, you could donate items. And someone else put in the chat ages ago about safety versus liability. So our members have raised concerns over liability if someone injures themselves. Can you confirm how this is controlled? I mean, Rodolfo, I'm going to come to you because you were sort of saying, a lot of things we worry about hardly ever happen, but liability is still a thing. So if your sound is okay, Rodolfo, maybe you can come back in.
Yeah. Can
Yeah,
you listen?
cool.
Can you
Yeah,
listen?
that's absolutely fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of concern about that. I didn't have insurance because there was no insurance that would cover my business. Let's call it this way. I don't know if it depends on countries, on
Okay.
companies, then so there was no insurance that would cover that. And what I keep saying to people is let's not forget the insurance companies, they're in the business to make money. They're not in the business to pay people and help people to get paid. It's true, it's true.
Yeah.
Whenever you have a rental system that every ticket's like 10 euros and the demand is low and everything, there's no interest almost for insurance companies, just a few maybe that would have a product that would fit to your market.
Yeah.
So whenever you have a market that is not spread, so yeah, liability, I mean, I had to make sure that the products were fine. I had to make sure to present the product to the client whenever they were gonna pick up the product with myself. And I don't have it here, but I created like a paper also, because I had to secure myself, basically, that people was not gonna do something wrong with the product and then come to me say that I gave a product, I don't know, that was, I don't know, somehow broken or anything like that. So they signed also paper. They signed online the reservation, but I had a paper that I kept a copy and they had the copy for themselves as well, that they also checked the product whenever they came to the store to pick up, so everything was paid, but I was showing the product. If I had to explain, I explain how to use the product. I show, people would see, people would ask, and then they would sign a paper saying that they checked the product with me, the product was good to go, and from there to out of sight of the door, their responsibility.
A bit like the car hire, isn't it? When you sign the form to say, it's got a scratch on it, a dent or whatever, and off I go.
Yeah, exactly. I went to the car system to look how they did, before I did it mine. I actually grabbed one paper from a car rental store to learn like how they do that,
Yeah, sounds like we're all learning as we go along. Francesca's here saying that insurance here is getting more familiar with the Library of Things, but it's definitely something like a little barrier. And I know we could talk all day, but we're getting towards our hour, and I wanted to just talk about what you think the biggest barriers we face. Like, why isn't this spreading maybe quicker, or what's stopping the kind of growth? Carol, what are your thoughts?
Awareness and understanding of what it is. I mean, I live in Sydney. People here aren't necessarily into sustainability, or they're into saving money and rampant consumerism. So
it's the same the world over, I think, Carol.
That's right. So yes, the biggest barrier is that education of people about what it is about. And look, really for the first 12 months, that's what we spent most of our time doing. Now, at least people know about the concept, they understand, what it is, but there are still people who go, what's that all about? So that's a big barrier. The insurance is a big barrier. Our Australian Library of Things group that works informally together have commissioned someone to look at insurance, because toy libraries here, the association has negotiated insurance for them, and it's much easier. So we're trying to do the same thing for the libraries of things here.
It sounds like you have to, in a way, you're forging a new path. And I remember looking into this like 10 years ago for leasing. And again, the sort of the insurance, at least in the UK, around leasing was really, really complicated, like who owns what, etc., etc. So it was almost as like nothing really fitted. So you're breaking new ground, which is great, but is also quite cumbersome, isn't it?
Painful sometimes.
I mean, a lovely question here from Holly saying that she's trying to set up a hub in Newcastle, and she's looking at a reuse and an upcycle hub, a swap shop, a cafe, the studio space, etc., etc. Have you got any thoughts for Holly, because she's sort of saying, look, is this feasible, with these?
Yes, Holly, I'd say sit down and take a big breath.
Yeah,
it is feasible, but do it slowly, bit by bit. We've got two things. In one of our branches is at a sustainability hub already that a council had set up. So that just sits there. We are slowly building a bit of a sustainability hub at another one of our branches. And that is just slowly coming by, recycling plastics, bringing your blister packs, a few different things like that. We're just slowly doing that. Otherwise, you just won't be able to manage everything. So you need to start on what you think is going to fly best. And that you
a bit of like Rodolfo's point about the top 6 items.
Yep. Yeah. And then just branch out from there once people get to know you and know what you're doing. And, oh, yeah, that's the place I can take this, or I can do that. Or do partnerships with other people. There's lots of other organisations doing great things. We want to look at a food pantry, but we're not starting it ourselves. We're just going to partner with some people who already do
That's
food
such
pantries.
a good idea. And no one's mentioned it here, but my immediate thought was the food bank. Space allowing, because you've got a constant flow of people, and like you say, Carol, it just dips into that kind of cost of living issue as well. But Holly, I would just say, just the community group I'm involved in, the cafe is the thing that brings in all the money, and that keeps everything else afloat. So you need some sort of form of income, and then, as Carol was saying, you're relying on volunteers for most of that extra sort of people power, if you like. Rodolfo, any thoughts about this kind of shared model, shared hubs? Have you managed to be able to do that in Spain?
Yeah, I tried. I had problems trying to convince local markets that they could rent products. They are very closed mind. No, I want to sell. I went through 100 local markets to talk. Maybe just 2 gave me a little bit of attention. And but I believe the path is there as well. It's like creating a small library of things through neighbors, with just a few products, combining local markets that already have the structure, the bills paid, let's call it this way, and add a new service. I believe in a local service, so I believe it all in local service. But also Carol said something about getting the message right in the beginning of everything, because sometimes we talk about library things, focus on sustainability, circularity, but whenever I closed mine, more than half of my clients were coming because they was gonna save money. So I believe that whenever anyone who wants to start a library thinks, think a lot about the effort that you're going to spend and maybe the money on communication, because could be a wrong path. Maybe you can find an easier path talking about how can you save money, and then from there you re-educate people about sustainability that goes around library things.
I think you're right. Maybe, or maybe have a 50-50 view on it, like you said, but don't make it all about that.
I can give you some stats on that I did just recently for the EPA. Our most prolific borrower in the last 18 months, which has cost her about $150, she actually borrowed conservatively, very conservatively, items that were worth $2,500. So she saved herself like $2,400.
Wow, that's
Collectively, we
great.
have 7 of those high pressure hoses. 118 people have borrowed them. So collectively, they've saved themselves $29,500.
Wow.
So
I
when you
mean,
start to put
yeah.
those sorts of figures together, then it means something.
Well, that's brilliant because was going to be my final question, Carol, because I wanted to know how we measure this impact. Because we all know that whether we're going for grants or whether we're trying to get sponsors or whatever we're trying to do, because we haven't even had time to talk about, maybe local businesses sponsoring this.
Yeah,
You're going to want impact data, and those numbers are pretty huge, Carol, when it comes to money in people's pockets. So, what other metrics are you using, Carol?
CO2 emissions.
Okay.
CO2 emission. We, as part of our deal, we report in the first instance 6 months and then annually to our councils.
Right.
Because, we are a bit of a cost to them. And the thing that they are most interested in is CO2 emissions. And I just did a bit of figures manually recently. 61 power tools, we saved 14,422.2 kilograms in CO2 emissions. Now that is a bit more than a guesstimate because there are some tools you can do it, but they're not perfect. But the software we use, and Rodolfo mentioned it before, My Turn, they are now building in a much better system for measuring CO2. So if I put in a drill, I need to just put a few things there and the system will calculate.
That's brilliant. I think that's what needs.
Yeah.
That's
and if you want
needed.
to have a look, the Edinburgh Tool Library or Library of Things on their website, they have a good calculator, and that's what's going to start to be built in.
This is great. This is going to be everywhere. This is going to be a thing. What about waste diverted from landfill, Carol? Do you report on that as well?
No, that's a bit hard, but the waste officers, they love that, and they can use that in their stats. What we're trying to do while we work with councils is that they have obligations to tick boxes around sustainability. So we make sure that we can help them tick those boxes, and then they're more than happy to support us. So that's just the model that works for us.
This is great. There's so much going on here. Rodolfo, anything on metrics? You've mentioned water there, but CO2 and cost savings, anything else that you think we should be reporting on?
No, I put water there because it's a main thing, at least here in Spain, and I believe that CO2 is becoming so water relating with production, and the less products on the market also means less water usage. So I believe it's a great metric that people should start to use to convince and make people understand the importance of the shared usage. But yeah, basically.
Yeah, no, good. The other thing we capture here, the council want us to capture, or actually grant funders, is just engagement. So obviously number of users, how many times, etc. And they ask us a lot about reaching out to diverse communities and lower income, so remembering to capture some of that data. Now, I guess if you're booking online, that might be captured, but if people are wandering in, you need a system for coupling it. And I'm just going to answer, I know we're coming up to the top of the hour, but Yassar here has asked, where does Library of Things work best? Is it amongst poor neighbourhoods, average, or wealthy communities? And that's an interesting question for both of you. Where would you say the actual...
Well, it's interesting. I would say average and poor. However, the branch we opened in November is in a very affluent part of Sydney, but they are also an area very focused on sustainability, and that council backed us so much and did so much advertising. It's unbelievable, and they have been more successful in their growth than any of the others. So who can tell? I think you come back to that survey to find out, what people want to borrow, how much they'll pay, how far they'll travel, etc., to inform that decision.
Yeah, no, that's really, really good. Rodolfo, any views from you in Spain? Sort of which types of neighborhood?
For now, I would say average.
Yeah.
If I can say average, and but I'm 100% sure. I'm a believer that this thing is gonna become like second-hand products being bought today easily from everywhere, high, average,
Why
poor, you
not?
know. And I believe that this is gonna be the next step we're gonna take about our relation with products itself. It's more a psychological problem that we have about ownership, you
Ownership.
know,
Yeah.
ownership. And this is gonna change. We're in the step between with secondhand. 10 years ago, people from higher, even average, wouldn't buy secondhand clothes, you know, and now it's a very common thing for everybody. So I think that this is the next step we're going to take in the next 10 years, definitely.
I hope so, because I actually see so many negativities around the overconsumption model. You know, people are getting more miserable, less connected with their neighbors, etc., etc. And what I see, because I volunteer in our local book library, okay, and so what I see there is, yes, people come for books, but they actually probably come for a chat, you know, about books or about the weather or
Yes.
anything. So we become a bit of a sort of social hub as well. So I think that's
Yeah.
an important thing to remember, that lots of us get into this because of the sustainable aspect, maybe the environmental aspect, but the social side of it is so strong, isn't it? And that's what we're missing when our parcel lands on the
Yeah.
doormat.
Yeah.
You know, we're missing all that kind of connection. And then obviously what we haven't had much time to talk about, and Kanksha has just said we can carry on for a few more minutes, which is great, is the skills. So the skills around repair, I think that's something we all know we're lacking.
What we do is, that I haven't mentioned, is we run workshops, and we run those workshops on items that we have in the library
Great.
to encourage them to come and borrow those things. So that might be a food dehydrating workshop or a pasta making workshop. They're the things. We're just about to working in, hopefully with some of the men's sheds, to do something on the tools as well.
So there's a nice link with the men's sheds as well, which we also
And
have.
there's also a nicer link there. Council pay us to run the workshops.
Wow. Well, I think you're
They
probably
have
luckier than us in terms of councils, Carol. Our councils haven't got a bean to rub together, so you're doing all right.
Well, one of our councils just put their rates up 87%. So
Crikey, not very popular.
No, they're not.
Yeah, so Francesca's also saying about the affluent area. Aisha is just saying, how do you mitigate the possibility of theft? It's another interesting question. Do people walk
Well,
away
we've
with
had
items?
we've had one thing stolen,
Only
and
one.
it was a cake tin, because they moved house and they didn't bring it back. We've had no problems whatsoever, and I think Rodolfo said he hadn't had any either.
Well, I hadn't. After I put the credit card in my system to use as a deposit, but also as a penalty if you don't turn it back. But I had one problem with a guy that stole my you guys had the hot steam
Steam
thing.
cleaner.
Yeah, steam cleaner.
Yeah.
Stole it. I didn't have the credit card. I went to justice. I needed to go to that process about how do I
That's theft.
protect my business and to be in that experience. So I went to the whole process of, because I had his document, his ID, like number, his name and everything. So I went and it was like a process of learning, but also like a sad process, because it's a tiny, how do you call, a tiny, how do you call, like a bad thing that people do to you. So he didn't even show to the judge to the day that I went there, you know. It was like a penalty that it's
So
like, you know, so you see how bad is the world sometimes, that make people like me introducing credit card in my system because I need to protect my stuff, you know.
But it
It's
sounds like it's not as big as an issue as people should
no,
be
it's not
concerned
as big.
about,
It's
and
not as big.
maybe keeping, some money in the pot in case something does get stolen or broken is just part of that kind of governance.
Yeah, and if it's a community thing, people know you more most of the time, so it's like, the shame situation also, it's like it protects.
Yeah.
We make sure we have credit card details if it's a very expensive item, but we don't have a lot of very expensive items, and almost everything is donated. And we figure if someone really needs to steal something, they must really need to steal it. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So if you're talking about donations, it sounds like you've built up enough of, enough donors. And let's face it, we've all got sheds full of this stuff anyway.
Exactly.
I mean, I think that's the next thing really, is pulling some of this stuff out and just saying, look, can you use it? I mean, the first person I spoke to, she said, I've got a pressure washer we never use, you can have it. You know, that was literally the first conversation. I'm going to wrap us up because I know people have probably got other meetings to go to, but I just want to have a key takeaway kind of from both of you. It's amazing what we've condensed into an hour. Honestly, I can't thank you enough. And obviously people can connect with all of us online if they've got other questions. So, but from what we've learned, to both of you, what would be your one kind of piece of advice to somebody wanting to set up a library of things? What's your kind of key thing?
Don't try to do it on your own.
Don't do it on your own.
I was gonna say the same thing because
I knew you would.
I was gonna say the same thing because I tried by myself, and I was like, not alone, not alone. Don't go alone.
Okay, you need a team. You need a crew.
You need a team, and if you're going to go volunteers, get them on early, make them part of the process. They need to own it. It's not something you're going to impose upon them. You know, they will help you to plan things. They'll come up with better ideas than you'll have half the time. And for us, it's very much, if we don't have the support of councils, we don't go there.
So you need that, yeah, but that'll depend on your local market. Just quickly before we go, Veronica is asking about Latin America. So if anyone's got any examples for Veronica of library of things or renting, then pop those in the chat. That would be great. And just thank you for everybody. I can't believe how quick it's gone. I think that's been one of our best webinars ever, Akanksha. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emma, and thank you to the panelists for taking time out. And it was a very insightful, informative session so far. Many of the attendees were networking and connected through these dialogues, and they were sharing their experiences. So thank you so much for that. As I mentioned in the chat as well, this webinar is being recorded and will be available on Be Wastewise website and YouTube channel. If you like to stay updated on future events and upcoming webinars with Emma and other moderators that we have, please do subscribe and follow us on social media. Thank you all. Thank you so much, Emma, Dr. Carol.
Brilliant.
Thank
Great
you.
to see
Thank you,
everyone.
Rodolfo.
Keep in
Thank you so much.
touch.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for the
Sleep well,
opportunity.
Carol. Bye.
Okay.
Bye, Rodolfo.
Yes,
Great
off to
meet you.
bed
Bye-bye.
right now.
Bye.
Bye.
Keep in touch. Bye. Great.
Great, Emma. Thank you. I
That was
think
one of the
very constructive
best.
discussion. Yes. And I could see there was a lot of learning and a lot of sharing. And I've saved
Didn't
the
even
chat.
get through half my questions because I just thought the questions were so good from the Q&A. That works
Yeah.
better, doesn't it?
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's how I think makes sense for us to hold such discussions, I think. And we see the participation from these people who are sharing their insights,
Yeah.
their experiences. I think that makes
And I
sense.
know at least a couple of people who couldn't make it who want the recording. So I think it might be one of those ones that, because I didn't, for some reason, didn't get round to sharing it with Library of Things, the brand. And then I literally shared it with them this week, so it's a bit late. But I think when we get the recording, they can maybe push that out
Yeah.
through there.
No, we'll try and do that within this week if that's what you want.
Oh
We can
yeah,
do
that
that.
would be great.
Yeah, because then I think that will. I mean, the discussion is hot, so why not? So maybe this weekend. Yes, we'll do that,
Oh, I
Deva.
love that. It was brilliant. Thank you so much.
It was amazing, Emma. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Yeah, it's good fun. I learned loads. And I think people, it's as much about the connections and everything as well. So
That makes sense. Yes.
great stuff. Speak to you soon.
Have a great day ahead.
Take care. Bye.